How's everybody doing this afternoon? So today our panel is on success, like Louis just said, and success is one thing that we're all striving to reach. Some of us, my lovely panel here is full of people who have already achieved that and are currently helping people achieve that. And so today we're just going to talk about the steps and the pathway to getting there, finding your purpose, passion, and following the plan, all with a capital P, by the way. And so, me personally, I'm an artist, I'm a student, and I'm an aspiring businessman. And success is something that I think about every day, something that is my main driving force in everything I do. And even in this, I look to be successful in this as far as getting through this, and hopefully you guys take something away from it. And it's a successful day for you guys too, because this is part of your plan. This is part of your pathway. You guys are here to learn things that help you enrich your pathway to success, help you find your purpose in a deeper sense, help you find your passion in a deeper sense, and help you find new moves and motives in your plan. And so first, I'll start with my nearest panel mate. Okay, sorry guys, this is my first step to success. This is part of my plan, you know. And part of success is dealing with the butterflies, and that's something I've definitely been dealing with, the butterflies of it. And so here's my first panel mate, LeRon Taylor. And LeRon is a CEO and founder of a company that helps develop softwares and mobile softwares for other companies. And he's obviously been successful in doing such. And so, LeRon, to open the floor with you, I would like to ask you, actually, I'm not even gonna go that way. I'm gonna introduce you guys to all my panel mates. First, we have these beautiful, lovely women here. We've got Dr. Key Holland, and she is the founder and CEO of Village Market, which is, I'm so sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. You want me to finish the sentence for you?
Yes,
I got
ma'am.
you. It takes a village.
You got it. It takes a village.
Yeah, it takes a village. And that was like a shameless plug, because the Village Market is an ecosystem for Black-owned businesses. What I'm very fortunate to do is to bring the community together, very engaged and active consumers, to hundreds of Black-owned businesses who operate in excellence. And we have settings like this. You guys have seen vendors on different levels here. If you can imagine 100 Black-owned businesses from across the country and thousands of Black people who show up simply to support some plant-based food, some performers, some art, and you can see the Village Market ATL.
Okay, thank you. And third, we have our guest, Sheena, here. She is the CEO of Bankway, which is
Capway. It's okay.
Sorry, the butterflies. She runs a bank that, actually, I'm just gonna let them explain what they do.
It's cool. I got you.
I got you. So Sheena, let the crowd know what you do.
I am the founder of a fintech company called Capway, and we bridge the gap between millennials and Gen Z who are financially underserved into the cashless economy. So whereas when our parents and grandparents, who are mainly cash-based, used to be able to pay for things in cash, our generation, we don't have that capability because we can't pay for Spotify in cash. You can't pay for Uber in cash. And so when you can't afford the Wells Fargo account because they're charging you money because you don't have enough money in your account, or you only have access to like a community bank which doesn't have the same technology advancements, we're the bank and we're the financial ecosystem that allows you to become financially healthy without having to go through the hurdles of traditional banking.
That's good.
Thank you. Give it up for us. Okay, and finally, we've got Trevon Williams here, and he is from since the 80s, and I'm gonna let him explain to you guys what he does.
What's up, everybody? My name is Trevon Williams. I think I might have more butterflies than you, but it's okay. I'm a part of Since the 80s. We are a management company, publishing company, as well as a music label. We represent on the management side 21 Savage, Earth Gang, JID, all Atlanta natives. On the label side, we represent ASEAN and Neonta, and the publishing side, we represent a ton of cool producers, Pyrex, Chase the Money, and many, many more. And since the 80s, I do tour management. I work on the DSP side, which is making sure that all of our cool artists get placements on Spotify and Apple Music and all of those things.
Dope. So these are our panel guests today. And so let's start from the beginning, finding your passion. And Doctor, my apologies. Doctor,
That's
you.
okay. No one in my family calls me doctor. You're good. You're good.
So, what you guys do, you guys help people from the bottom develop their business, right? So, in seeing that, what are some of the first things besides being nervous that you see in people who are trying to get to where you are in success?
Well, I'm certainly not halfway where I'm going to be.
Right.
And so when I have an opportunity to meet with small business owners, whatever field that they're in, what I met with is a lot of anxiousness, a lot of anxiety, and also the biggest question is, I don't even know how to build a village of support. How did you get this person to do this thing? How did you get the money to do this thing? And so,
and I hate to interrupt, but another aspect that I want you to touch on is the fact that you are from a small town, so that makes that a little bit more difficult, right? And even though we live in Atlanta, some small towns, and I know I'm sure some of you are not from here, so you understand where she's coming from with that. And so.
okay, so from being from a small town, I am originally from Mississippi. I've been in Atlanta now 7, almost 8 years. And who's from Atlanta in the audience? Atlanta! Look at y'all, thick in here. And then everybody else, we're transplants. I can say that if coming from a small town, it helped ground me in my principles. Because though I wasn't from a major city, I was from a major thriving black economy of group economics. I didn't have to come up with a new concept when I moved to Atlanta. I've always seen black people buying from black people, supporting black people. When I got to Atlanta, I realized it was very siloed. When I'm meeting black business owners who are from small towns or major cities like Atlanta, the needs are still the same. If you don't come from generational wealth, a generational opportunity, the gaps are persistent. That means if you're from Batesville, Mississippi, where I'm from, or the south side of Chicago, or New York, it doesn't matter. If you do not have direct contact to generational wealth, or some sense of capital, or a thriving entrepreneur to teach you the way, the gaps are consistent.
Right. Okay, and so, like with being from a small town and being in the generation that we are now, since this is the next gen panel, LaRon, with your business, whenever you develop your apps and your software, is accessibility to people in those small markets something that you guys, look out for, or do you feel like, or actually I'm just gonna open the floor for this question. Do you guys feel like at this generation, there's an excuse for the small town to hold you back? Is the small town holding you back still? And LaRon, with your apps, how do you feel about that? Like your apps help open that door from anywhere, right?
Yeah, let me kind of set the frame a bit. So I do have a software company. I'm Layron Walker. I have a company called Cybrus, which is a software development company, but it's not really the core focus. So I'm an investor / technology entrepreneur, and Cybrus is like my main business. But to that point, I grew up in Southwest Atlanta, in a community called Pittsburgh. Very poor beginnings, but technology changed my life. So I have a bachelor's and a master's in electrical computer engineering. And as a result of getting those skills, I started a technology company. And to that point, that allowed me to change my family trajectory. So as a result of that, realizing that whether you're from a small town or big town, actually is not really about lack of resources. Even affluent neighborhoods don't have the exposure to things, right? So one of the things that we've done is that I have an entire business now called Mantis EDU, which is a technology business that actually takes technology and takes it into the classroom from K-20. And we expose people to how to understand, how to learn, how to build, how to code, how to use things, tied to real world use cases to be able to build entrepreneurial-based businesses. right? So the location is not really the issue. It's really more about access.
Okay.
And then using my skill and my craft to be able to take those things back to those who don't have access to it is the way to kind of bridge that divide.
Okay, so in terms of, so getting success from a small town, you don't feel like that's a thing anymore?
And you show up and show out. Like in this room, you go upstairs. Everybody you want to meet is upstairs, right? So you jump in the car, jump in the Uber, you get to the meeting, meet people. So networking is probably the bigger piece of the conversation.
Okay.
And more importantly is that when you meet people, people generally want to support and help you, but you got to act on it. You go to events like this, I'll tell you what happened today. We're at this event. We'll meet happy people here. After the event, somebody's going to come to the front. Half of you guys are going to say, can I have your business card? And we'll give it to you. And of those people, probably 2% will reach out. So people don't take opportunities, they don't move forward. And I think it's really about showing that you're sincere, that you're serious, and people just want to see that you can help and support.
So you're saying, regardless of the environment where you're from, if you want it, you just have to go for it,
And be sincere with it.
right. And that's the passion aspect of it, just going for it in any environment, taking it from where you are. And one thing that you guys did touch on was the fact that if you're not introduced to generational wealth or money from the beginning, you're kind of at a disadvantage, and it's harder to reach those points of success, or even to find those points in getting your passion. Like it takes trial and error to find your passion. It takes trial and error to get to where you're trying to be and being successful. And the first step to that is having the funding for that, right? And so, Sheena.
Yeah, I think that's where she should jump in.
Right. So Sheena, what things have you seen, or what things can you offer to the youth that you've seen coming to your banking system?
So Capway is not my first company. Capway is actually my second tech company.
Okay.
I've actually
Apple.
several companies, but it's my second tech company. So I started my first company in college. I had an idea for a mobile app, figured it out. That company, I bootstrapped it. Actually left, I'm from Mississippi, and left Mississippi and moved to Silicon Valley. So does everybody here know what Silicon Valley is? So 2012, left Mississippi, moved to Silicon Valley, got an opportunity to learn and network with some amazing people. One of the first people I met when I got to Silicon Valley was David Sachs, which he was the CEO of Yammer. He had just sold it for like $1 billion to Microsoft. I actually didn't know that when I met the guy. The guy came in with like some basic jeans on, a white t-shirt, and he was like driving a Prius. So he pulled up like Google Ventures in a Prius. Nothing would have made me think this guy would have sold his company for $1 billion. But even to the funding piece, the way they think about money and the way that I grew up thinking about money was totally different. I got a chance to understand the difference in rich and wealthy. I grew up, like most people, seeing the rappers, and in the black culture, that's what we know. We know athletes, we know rappers. That's our version of success. I got out there, and for one, there was no black people in Silicon Valley. But I also realized that their definition of wealth was totally different than my definition growing up of wealth. Nobody drove really a Bentley. People drove like Camrys and Hondas. I mean, they had nice cars, but it's like they drove it only on like Sunday. It's like you got the $1 billion car, like $1 million car, but like I'll drive it on Sunday just for the sake of driving it. But I bootstrapped my first company because I wanted to learn. It wasn't learning the hard way, but it was also, people have to understand, you have an idea, the first thing most people think is, I want to go get funding, I need an investor. No investor is going to invest in an idea only. You got to have some form of traction. You got to have some form of retention. I mean, even if you have an idea, how many people can you find that's willing to pay for that idea? And so my first company, I bootstrapped it. My second company, which is Capway, we are VC backed. So we're backed by a venture capitalist. All our money actually comes from out west for the most part. We have a few investors in New York. But you have to understand, when you get an investor, I don't care if it's your sister, I don't care if it's an actual VC, your baby, which is your company, becomes less of your baby. So somebody's taking equity every time they give you money. It's not free money. Like, you're having to give up what you've built. And I have plenty of friends who have gotten to a Series A round, which usually goes angel, family and friends, angel, pre-seed, seed, Series A, depends on if you're on West Coast or East Coast, it makes a difference. But I've had plenty of friends who've gotten to Series A and they own less than 50% of their own company because they're taking this crazy money thinking that I take all this money, I'm going to get this company off the ground. It takes way more than money. So my biggest advice would be if you can bootstrap your company, bootstrap it. Like, don't run out and try to get money. And the second thing is, even when you are raising money, make sure it's very smart money. Do not take dumb money, meaning that if Joe over there wants to give you $500,000 to invest in your company, he cannot make connections for you, he has no clue what you're doing, don't take that money, because you, at that point, you have no clue what to do with $500,000. He can't help you because it's dumb money. So especially when you're very early, be very strategic and take smart money that can help you grow.
Right, so you're saying,
May I ask a question really quickly? Do we all know what bootstrapping is?
Okay.
Yeah, can we raise our hand if you don't know what bootstrapping is? And it's cool if
Okay.
you don't know, that's why we're in this
That was good, glad you
setting.
said that. So bootstrapping is pretty much you're taking your own funds and you're finding a way to make it. So it's whether you're saving all your money from your job, whether you're working a side job and you're taking that side hustle money and you're putting it towards your business, pretty much you're finding a way to use your own money to build your company. You're not taking outside money from anybody. It is your money. You're taking step by step to build your company with your money. Outside money is, once again, an investor coming in and giving you money, which is going to come with terms. And those terms can sometimes be really bad, or they can be decent terms. But it's bootstrapping if you can use your own money to build your company. At least get to a point where when you do take outside investment, you have enough traction where you pretty much sit in the driver's seat of that term sheet. If you go into an investment meeting and you don't have a lot of traction, you don't have anything to offer, the investor's gonna say, I'm taking the biggest risk. And so they're gonna give you terms that are not gonna be very friendly.
I have one point there. I was going to say that is one point, I think, looking at smaller communities or communities that don't have access. Like, I've been in business for almost 20 years, and I actually, for the first time in the last 3 months, am raising money from my companies. But that's primarily because of my exposure and understanding how it worked. I was taught growing up, you don't have debt, you pay for your own stuff. So every company I built was based on me using my resources. Now, I did okay with doing that. But on the flip side, other people, you go out west, they realize that you have an idea, you want to go scale it, it's about growth. Companies like Uber and all these companies, they haven't made money yet, right?
Yeah.
But they're growing because they're growth companies. So my businesses haven't gotten as big as I wanted to because I haven't leveled outside investment because I didn't have that exposure and access.
Right.
So understanding how to get plugged in so you can make a decision on, you have a company that can scale, but you didn't take money because you don't want to have debt. But if you were to go find a strategic investor and pour gas on it, that business goes to be a $1 billion business versus being $1 million lifestyle company. Like, those are the type of things that I think we need to have conversations around and understand how to make those decisions.
And to that point, a lifestyle brand company, most of the time when people think of a lifestyle brand company, they think of something very small. A lifestyle brand company can make $10 million a year. So don't look, like, most people want to be a VC-backed company. It's like a buzzword. Like, honestly, you don't want to be a VC-backed company because everybody actually doesn't fit the VC model, a venture capitalist model. It is 100% to be okay with a lifestyle brand company. My first company is a lifestyle brand company. My second company is a VC-backed company.
and so, Trevon, you're not someone that's opposed to taking the grind and the hard route and turning down the outside money, but so, I know you use your mentors and stuff like that, so would you say that's like kind of an alternative to taking money, you just take knowledge as a way to drive your plan?
Yeah, I think mentorship is very important, no matter what avenue you go down or what career path that you go down, because there's always someone who's been in your shoes before you, who stepped in the mud and who stepped on the marble floors, who understands what you're going through and been there and pretty much done that. So mentorships is definitely important for young people, older people, it doesn't really matter. It's always good to align yourself with someone who's very knowledgeable of, what industry you're going into and or your career, and just take that and learn, Always be, like my mentor always told me, always be a student to the game. No matter how much you think you know, you still don't know.
And they were funding you with knowledge, not monetarily, right?
Yeah, and in the beginning, and things transpire, but always be open to getting the knowledge first. Like even right now, you guys are, even myself, getting an abundance of knowledge and taking that in, So
Sure.
even after this, I challenge you guys to move forward and try to find mentors, either in one of these panels or just out in the streets. Go out and learn and try to get as many mentors who actually know what you want to accomplish and learn from them. So.
Right, 100%. Sure. And so, along with the mentor thing, how did that affect your plan? Like, were you making long-term goals like, okay, I'm going to find a mentor, or did you just go out, you know, with your drive and it just you just stumbled upon it? Like, were these things that you actively reached for, or could be a question for all of you whenever it comes to moving along, like,
Yeah.
were these things that you guys actively reached for? Like, how much initiative did you have to apply?
Well, I met my mentor, her name is Key Henderson. She is the personal manager to 21 Savage. I actually met my mentor by sneaking into Revolt Music Conference down in Miami. I don't recommend doing that because it might not work, or it might work, I don't know. And what I did was
No risk, no reward.
I told my mama, I need $300, just get me down there and I'll figure it out. Right. And I got there and I snuck into the conference, and, you know, I was the only person in there with a suit because, you know, I'm fresh out of college. I graduated from Hampton University, and you learn that, you know, you go into a conference or something of that nature, you put a suit on. So she was like, you look very poised, and I was like,
right, so
you want to be in the music industry? You got a suit on? Hey man, let's conversate. So from there, I was just on it, you know. Hey, you know, what can I do? You know what I'm saying? And when you are trying to find a mentor, you know, I'd say personally, one of your approaches shouldn't be, you know, what can you do for me? More so like, what can we do for each other? Right. You know, because then you know, mentors would be more compelled to help you because they know that you want to learn, but they also know that you're invested in what they have going on and that you want to help what they have going on as well. So, you know, I didn't really stumble across it. I kind of knew that I wanted to go down there and grab a mentor. Right. However, you know, I did know that, you know, that's just the first step right. in my goals in my career path, to grab a mentor, to learn, to get the knowledge, and to grow.
And at the end of the day, it was just a chance you were taking, a risk, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a risk.
In order to develop success, along your path, you're going to run into some failures. So this was almost one of those. Some risks and failures are going to need to be taken. And so along your path of success, how necessary do you feel it is to take risks and to take those losses?
Yeah, they always say no risk, no reward. I'll tell you my story. So I mentioned I was first generation in my family to go to college, even go to grad school, and I was taught in high school go to a decent college. I was taught in college go to a decent grad school, and I decided to I went to Tennessee State for undergrad, and I went there because I wanted to be an engineer. And back then, you would go to usatoday.com and you would pick a school in the top 10. So it was University of Michigan, that was Purdue, and that was Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech didn't accept me because I didn't do good on SAT, even though I was like salutatorian. And you had to drive past Indiana to get to Michigan, so I stopped at Purdue, right? At Purdue, somebody told me to get the best degree, so I went into the grad program, and I was getting a PhD out of undergrad. And I realized I should have had an MBA. But at some point along those lines, I finished all my coursework, and I was about literally a year from my PhD, and I realized that teaching wasn't my path, and I had to find my comfort level. And my comfort level, even today, is the amount of money I can have in the bank, where I don't care about, I can live for a year with nothing else happening. At that point in time, my comfort level was $10,000. So I had 10 grand in the bank, and I literally woke up one morning and said, I'm done with grad school. And I started focusing on my business full time, and I took that risk. And I went from doing, you know, little cheap $1,000 websites in that time period. That next year, I think I made about $300,000. So I took that risk, right?
And those risks come from the passion part of success. You have to have passion in order to be able to take those risks, take those L's, and keep on moving, keep going with what you're doing, yeah. And to achieve that success. And so you guys being a panel of people who I personally deem successful, do you feel as if, let's see how I want to articulate this. You feel like it's gratifying once you get to the end, right? So
never get to the
but
end.
there's never an
I was
end.
like, I have
I'm
no
not
idea.
there.
It's never an end.
well, then, okay, we'll start
I
here.
think when
We'll
you get to the end, you're done. And
Yeah, you never
so
stop.
the finish line always moves forward.
Okay.
I think how you handle the pace of it is what you're probably referring to. It's like running a marathon. You have to train for that. If you start out today, if I start out, I'll talk about myself. If I decide I'm going to get up and run a marathon tomorrow, I'll probably make it 3 miles tops. Then I'll be on Instagram talking about how hard I tried. Because you have to train for this. And the failures that you spoke of, it strengthens your muscle if you apply those failures right. Meaning you assess them, you pull them apart, and you figure out how to learn from them. She shared that she started a company, started another company. Whatever perceived failures were just lessons to strengthen this second company. As you build a business, as you build a concept, is whatever it is, if you strengthen the muscle of whatever the setback is, it gives you the internal conditioning to keep working at something. So when you go to shake your hand of the first mentor and they see that you don't really have a concept yet, they may not be as interested to work with you. What you take from that is, now why didn't you want to work with me? Not in a defensive way, but to learn, well, I actually work with people who have something going already, at least a business plan or something like that. You go home, you build your business plan, and then you meet the next person. To strengthen the muscle is to take the feedback of rejection, and then going home, work on it, and then improve. But it's the journey. It's the journey that I'm hearing.
And with that rejection that you just mentioned, as a woman, and Sheena, you as well, do you feel as if that's applied extra pressure on your pathway to success?
I mean, for me, more so, when I speak of my companies more in the tech field, you always going to get rejection in the tech field as a woman. Black women of color actually receive less than 1% of VC dollars. Women in general, I think, receive less than 3%. Women of color receive less than 1%. So you hear the word no all the time. Right. Like, I can walk in with a business plan. Well, we don't do business plans in tech. I can walk in with a pitch deck.
Pitch deck.
Everybody know what a pitch deck is? So a pitch deck is, imagine when we did a business plan, it's like 60 pages. You took those 60 pages and you pretty much make anywhere from 5 to 20 slides, depending on who you're pitching to, and you make it super simple in 10 slides pretty much. You're going to pitch to them exactly what your idea is. And those slides are going to cover pretty much your problem, your solution, how your product works, what's your traction, where you're trying to go. It's really a roadmap of your idea or your concept. You want to say something?
Yeah, but don't lose your thought. Who's put together a PowerPoint? Okay, put your hands down. Who has written a long paper first? Okay, and then from that long paper, you have to get in front of your class to present it. Did you present the whole paper? Did you put together 100 slides? You got out the best parts, right? To tell the story. That's what a pitch deck is.
It's a great analogy.
Mississippi, girl.
I got you. Then I lost my thought. What was I saying?
I told you don't forget your thought.
No business plans.
No business plan, pitch deck.
Pitch deck. Okay, but what was it before that?
Women.
I'm ready.
I'm working like 2 hours of sleep, by the way, being honest with you guys.
Being a woman in the workplace.
There we go. Thank you.
Somebody
Thank you.
listening.
I am seriously working on 2 hours of sleep. Bear with me. So yes, you get no a lot. But the difference is when I went out west, I will say this, when I went out west, they celebrated failure. They don't I never was able to celebrate failure when I was in Mississippi, when I was at home. Failure at home was like, you failed, it's the worst thing in the world. Like, I gotta pick myself up off the ground because my life has ended. That's how it felt, growing up when I heard the word failure. When I got out west, like, they celebrated failure. It was like, you didn't make it, we gotta throw a party. Like, they actually have failure, like, conferences. It's called, what is it, like, F the failure? Y'all never heard, it's a conference where, anyway, you get together and you pretty much celebrate your failures.
To help them grow past it, though, right?
To make you get past, it's like a fun thing about failures. And my mentors, my investors, they have this thing where it's always like, fail fast, fail cheaply. So it's not even about failing. It's like, if it doesn't work, kick it to the side and get to going on something else. It's not like, it didn't work, I failed, my life is over, I'm gonna sulk for like 6 months. It's like, it didn't work, it failed, okay, next week, what's the next idea? And so that's one thing that for me, I was able to learn outside of leaving home, but it's not really a failure, it's really about learning lessons. It is about taking risk. Everything is about taking risk. In order to start a company, you have to be crazy. I tell anybody that nobody's sane is going to start a company and stick with it, because
So-
it takes a lot of crazy things to actually run a company.
And so,
And it also takes being misunderstood by the people that's closest to you. Because if you're doing something that has not been done before, typically in your immediate circle, no one has done those things either. So you're trying to explain this concept where there's just a concept gap. And so you tell people like, are you gonna eat?
Nope.
And you be like, I don't know when. They're gonna tell you to go to your 9 to 5 because that's safe. So that's a part of the success journey, is understanding that your immediate circle may not be your resource to build your business. You may tell them, I just need y'all to motivate me even when it doesn't make sense. But you're gonna have to go outside of your immediate circle to get the type of help that you're gonna need to be able to build, sustain, and scale your business. Anybody from Mississippi understood VCs?
No.
Nobody from my family either. And so if we go home talking about, well, I need a VC, my grandmother's gonna ask me, is that an acronym, a new name for Jesus? So you have to remember that it's okay if the people around you don't get what you're striving to do.
and so, once you do reach that point to where they do start to get that, or even if they don't start to get it, do you feel like you have an obligation to, enlighten them on that, or bring them in on, or try to elevate their mindset to maybe reach the point where yours is?
Let me speak to that. It's funny, man, because you talk about people look at now, like you look at traditional investing, most people they get involved with companies when they reach the public markets. Most money is made when you're the seed investor, the angel investor, those early people, but most of our communities don't even get a part of that. So literally right now, most of my friends look at me as being a success. And so I'm out now like looking to raise a small seed round, $500,000, which is nothing out west. And I'm on the phone call, literally talking to a friend. They believe they'll go kill it. People I went to school with, and they cut a check. And one of my friends, when they said, you'll laugh at this, when they said they had to get their manager, a pretty successful person, they had to get their manager on the phone, their money manager, to decide how much money they can put in. I'm like, she about to cut a check. She said, here, let me put in $7,500. I was like, you have to talk to your money manager to cut a check for $700? And it's the same night where I'm investing $10,000 into a company I met 2 weeks ago. And so like our people, even though we have resources, we don't understand how money is made in these spaces, and we're not getting that generational wealth. Whereas out west, there's a story about this one guy whose kids came home who were working with, they kept using, I think it was Snapchat. And this man went and had the private school buy some stock in Snapchat, like $20,000, $30,000, and the company went public, and the school made like several million dollars off of that simple investment. And so even though we have levels of success in other places, we don't know how to play in these spaces, which keeps us from kind of getting to levels that other people are getting to. And I think that education piece is critically important if we want to find a way to kind of transform our communities.
So to bridge the disconnect.
Yeah, understanding how the game works, how you get involved with it, and also how to be involved with things that we're doing so we all can win from it.
Yeah, I mean, when speaking to your field, I mean, I get DMs all the time where it's like a rapper or an actor who is like, I'm trying to get into tech. Like, how do I get into tech? Because now people are realizing like, you can make some money from music, but you're never gonna make the money in music that you can make
from here.
in technology. You're not touching. Jay-Z rapped for how long until he started making investments in tech, and then he got to almost to $1 billion.
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
Diddy did how much in music, and then it wasn't to Ciroc and investments in tech that he got to almost $1 billion. People are realizing in our culture that the gold mine is actually in technology, but it's the gap that we haven't.
Right.
We're still trying to fill the gap, and the issue is nobody really speaks the language. When you look at black people in tech, it's not that many of us. Like it's probably people in this room would probably
And so,
account for that.
Even deeper on the level of your immediate circle, when it comes to going back to your community and things like that, do you feel like that's something that should be done more once people do reach that level of success, or how do you guys view that in your specific
I mean,
state?
I look at it like this, and this is me just being transparent and honest. Everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur, and everybody's not meant to be a leader.
Right.
Some people are meant to be the motivator. Some people are meant to punch a 9 to 5. One of the biggest things I've always disagreed with is like the Dame Dash when he was on Breakfast Club. He was like, everybody's supposed to be like a leader or entrepreneur or something that he said to that effect. Well, no. I mean, one thing that Bill Cosby said, maybe not a good person to reference, but He said you're supposed to treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO. So the janitor was meant to be the janitor. If he wasn't for him, then who's gonna take the trash out?
Right.
Like everybody has a purpose, and you just have to respect everybody in their purpose.
Right.
If
Just
your
like
purpose is
everyone
to
in
be
this
the
room could be
waiter,
the next CEO.
I'm gonna respect you as that waiter. I'm gonna tip you good. That's what you're meant to do. Everybody's not meant to be a CEO.
I just think it's what we do in those spaces. So everyone is not meant to be an entrepreneur, and that's cool. I think once we take a deep breath and accept that, that's the start. But if you're working in the 9-to-5 world, if you're operating in excellence and then creating a pathway for the next person to get in the game,
Yes.
that's what we're supposed to do. How do you always open the door up to get some other people in? If we're creating our companies, our ultimate goal is to be able to employ other people. We're not telling them to go start their own companies. We're telling you to come and work for us to scale this thing. And then if you're in a more corporate setting, how do you get to the position where you get to the table where you're a decision maker? Where you can look at resumes and CVs and say, oh, we need to bring this person in. That's how the village operates. So if everyone goes over here, we have a whole missing gap, but we have no decision makers at this table.
So,
Thank you guys so much. I know this conversation can keep on going. This is a good conversation, right? Y'all are so weak. Oh my gosh. But we just want to get a quick Q&A. All these brilliant minds up here, the T'Challa, and what's T'Challa's little sister's name? Shuri, thank you. We got them up here on the stage, y'all, so y'all might want to talk to them. All right?
I appreciate you guys listening, and I'm pretty sure my panel mates feel the same way.
Wait.
And-
We got to do Q&A first.
We have some questions.
So do we have any questions from the floor real quick? Go ahead.
Thank you guys for this great conversation. But what I've been trying to think about is I'm running a nonprofit myself, and in that there are levels of entrepreneurship there, but hence the name, you're not making money. So can you talk to me about how you say not everyone's meant to be an entrepreneur? Can you talk to me about the nonprofit aspect of that, if that's in anyone's wheelhouse?
I think I can kind of speak to that. So I actually have a nonprofit. When I went to undergrad, somebody gave me a $1,000 book scholarship to go to school. And so in grad school, I started a nonprofit called Time to give away book scholarships. But now we pivoted that to realize that it's not just about giving people book scholarships, people need access to tech. So my nonprofit actually is a vehicle to put tech programs back into the community, but I link it back to my for-profit business. So I have a business that builds hardware, software, and I can now build things at scale for cheap that my nonprofit can take and implement, right? And so having those nonprofit partners that are part of the implementation side of programs is critically important. And then also having that from a business perspective, you walk upstairs, half of these people upstairs are from they call it the CSR departments, these corporate social responsibility offices. They don't want to cut checks to for-profit businesses, right? So having the people like yourself who can go run those programs to leverage those resources is critically important. So that's a part of our strategy on the corporate side as well.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gregory Mitchell. Thank you, panelists, for this amazing conversation. My question for you all, we're talking about pathway to success, and each of you all have reached levels of success, and you all have had to build teams, right? Earlier we touched a little bit, but specifically yesterday they said the most important asset is human capital, right? So I want you all to please share with me an experience, or let me know a time where you had to put someone in like each of you have boards, right, or positions of leadership. How do you go about choosing those people and building that team to where you understand, this is where I want to see my business, my organization, and maybe an experience where you may have placed somebody in a position and maybe they didn't fulfill the needs, or, how do you go about being confident in building that team and having that human capital?
I think sometimes I can tell you, just my experience, just in the last 7 to 8 months, I've been able to build a solid team of 7 incredible women. Before then, I was operating like most businesses as a sole proprietor. It was just me answering emails, getting everything set up for big events, doing all the curriculums for our programming. What I've learned to really understand what you need is to assume those positions first yourself. when you realize that you don't have the skill set to do this thing, then you better understand how to ask the questions for the person that you're going to interview, because you've done it. I believe that Instagram rushes us to tell us that once you build a business or you build a concept, now I need to go get this branding person, I need to get this person who does this. You don't even know what questions to ask. So you don't even know what type of portfolio they should bring when they sit down and talk to you, or what they should deliver in your inbox before y'all ever meet. If you have the time, and in building a business, it's going to take an incredible time for you to really do a deep dive of your own business. Attempt to do those things yourselves, and everything where you hit a wall, that's an interview question. And if there's a part of the community, a network that you can't reach, that's a question. Who can you give access to? If I hire you, how does this give me access to this community? But it's going to take some lonely hours of trying your best to do some things yourself and failing at it miserably, and then you know how to hire better.
I would say for me, it's real simple. Anytime I interview someone or bring someone on, if you come in and you're coming in to work for me, I don't want you. Because when you work for me, you're gonna come in, you're gonna punch a 9 to 5, you're gonna get your paycheck, and you're gonna go on by your business. Especially as an early stage company, I want someone who's gonna work with me. Because if you work with me, you're just as invested as I am. So you can come in, you can punch the clock, but you might leave and go home and think of other ideas. When our strategy meetings on Monday, you're gonna have ideas because you're invested. So mine is simple. If I know you're not there to work with me, I don't want you to work for me.
And it's making people inspired by what you're doing. They should be inspired. Or if we're gonna treat it how the people that we work for, that we're on Instagram all day rather than working.
And to piggyback with both you guys' points, because you guys make great points. I was just reading a book. Well, I'm actually still reading the book. It's Think and Grow Rich. And in that book, it says, I don't know why my voice jump out, but in the book, it says that you should try to find somebody who, if not smarter than you, is just as smarter than you, because they're gonna bring things to the table that you might aren't able to bring. So just kind of how you were saying in this space of when you're building your team, if you might not know something, you kind of sit back, let it resonate, and formulate your team. They might know more in that area, so try to, when you're trying to build your team, try to just look for people or candidates who is just as smarter than you. If not in your area, but in that area that you need to be on your team.
Yeah, I made one mistake that I made. Don't realize that people are important in different seasons. So she mentioned that this startup you're building in this one case is something that's never been done before. I thought I needed a leadership team because I never I never had a corporate job before, so I went and hired all these people who had worked at corporate companies. I had a really nice leadership team. They were smart as hell, but they were good at doing what they were told to do. They couldn't think of new stuff. And so I literally looked back one year and realized that I wasted about $1 million in people and process. I got rid of my entire leadership team of 5 people, and I poured back into my company, and literally I had less people and was more productive just because I poured into it myself, right? So just realize that if you're at a stage where you're building something, that's a certain type of person. If it's time to operate something, it's a different type of person, but don't assume because somebody's been a VP of something that's Google for the last 25 years, they can come and help you. They can help you when it's at scale, when they have a staff, but if there's no staff, they can't do the work. So just keep that in mind.
So there's still people too, just believe in yourself.
And people in yourself, but just know that some people need teams but need them to work. They don't do the work.
Thank you. Any final words from our panelists real quick? No? We want to thank you guys so much for coming out and sharing with us.